One single gunshot in a sunlit street? That's all it took to ignite a war that would consume 4 empires, kill 17 million people, and redraw the map of the entire world. But that bullet was just the spark. The powder keg had been filling for decades. What if I told you the Great War wasn't an accident at all? By the summer of 1914, Europe had not seen a continent-wide war in nearly a century. 5 great empires, Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia ruled the world between them, connected by royal bloodlines and divided by paranoia. They had spent 40 years arming themselves to the teeth, signing secret treaties, and carving up Africa and Asia like a dinner table. This story matters now because it shows how alliances meant to prevent war can guarantee one instead. How pride, fear, and miscalculation can spiral into catastrophe faster than anyone believes possible. And how the decisions made in those summer months of 1914 still shape the borders, the conflicts, and the traumas of our world today. Let's rewind to 1871. Germany has just unified under Prussian power, and its new Chancellor Otto von Bismarck knows his young empire has made France a bitter enemy. So Bismarck builds a web of alliances to keep France isolated, first with Austria-Hungary, then with Russia and Italy. For 2 decades, his system holds. But when Bismarck is forced out in 1890, the new Kaiser Wilhelm II lets the Russian alliance lapse. France and Russia, both afraid of Germany, signed their own alliance in 1894. Now Europe is split into 2 armed camps. Germany and Austria-Hungary on one side, France and Russia on the other. Britain stays neutral, but watches nervously as Germany begins building a massive navy to rival the British fleet. By 1904, Britain signs an entente with France. 3 years later, it adds Russia. The Balkans become the flashpoint. Austria-Hungary controls a patchwork of ethnic groups, many of whom dream of independence. Serbia, a small Slavic kingdom, wants to unite all South Slavs under its flag, and Russia backs Serbia as its little brother in the region. Austria sees Serbia as an existential threat. When Austria annexes Bosnia in 1908, South Slavic nationalists are enraged. Secret societies form, including one called the Black Hand, which trains young revolutionaries for acts of terror. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austrian throne, visits Sarajevo in occupied Bosnia. A 19-year-old Bosnian Serb named Gavrilo Princip, trained by the Black Hand, steps onto Franz Joseph Street and fires 2 shots. Archduke. One kills the Archduke, one kills his wife Sophie. Princip is arrested on the spot. Austria-Hungary blames Serbia and, backed by Germany, delivers an ultimatum on July 23rd. The demands are designed to be impossible. Serbia must allow Austrian police to operate inside Serbian borders, essentially surrendering sovereignty. Serbia accepts almost everything, but rejects that one clause. The alliances activate like a row of falling dominoes. Russia mobilizes to defend Serbia on July 30th. Germany, allied with Austria, declares war on Russia on August 1st. France, allied with Russia, begins mobilization. Germany declares war on France on August 3rd and invades Belgium to outflank French defenses. Britain, committed to Belgian neutrality by an 1839 treaty, declares war on Germany on August 4th. Within 6 days, all of Europe is at war, and nobody thinks it will last more than a few months. The immediate trigger, the assassination, is not in dispute. Court records, eyewitness testimony, and Princip's own confession confirm the facts of June 28th. What remains contested is how much the Serbian government knew. Austrian investigators allege that Serbian military intelligence helped train and arm the Black Hand. Serbia denied direct involvement, and no smoking gun document has ever surfaced proving government orders. The alliance system is well documented. Treaties between Germany and Austria, France and Russia, and the British ententes with both were published and debated in parliaments at the time. What's harder to verify is intent. Did leaders truly believe these alliances would deter war, or did they secretly welcome the excuse to fight? Historians remain split. Christopher Clark argues that all sides sleepwalked into disaster through miscommunication and miscalculation. Others, like Fritz Fischer, claimed Germany actively sought war to break the encirclement and dominate Europe. We also have the mobilization timetables, military plans that, once started, could not be stopped without leaving a nation defenseless. These plans meant that political crises became military facts within hours. Diplomats found themselves overtaken by train schedules and telegraph orders. According to German Chancellor Bateman Hallwich's memoirs, he tried to halt German mobilization on August 1st, but was told by generals it was technically impossible. The war guilt debate has raged for over a century. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 placed sole blame on Germany, a clause that poisoned European politics for a generation. German historians spent decades arguing that all powers shared responsibility, that the alliance system itself was the culprit. In the 1960s, Fischer's research suggested Germany bore special responsibility for pushing Austria toward war and planning aggressive expansion. His work sparked fury in Germany and remains controversial. Other scholars point fingers at Russia. The Russian mobilization on July 30th turned a regional crisis into a continental one, and Tsar Nicholas II ignored warnings from his own advisors. Still others blame France for encouraging Russian aggression, or Britain for failing to make clear earlier that it would fight. There are also gaps in the evidence. Many diplomatic cables were destroyed, edited, or kept secret. We don't have full records of private conversations between the Kaiser and his generals in late July. We don't know exactly what Austrian leaders said to each other behind closed doors. Some documents didn't surface until the 1960s, and Russian archives opened only after the Cold War. Each new release shifts the debate. What almost no one disputes is that the war did not have to happen. At every stage after the assassination, after the ultimatum, even after the first declarations, there were off-ramps. Leaders chose not to take them, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of pride. Sometimes because they thought the other side would blink first. When the guns finally fell silent in November 1918, more than 17 million people were dead. Soldiers were killed in trenches by machine guns, poison gas, and artillery that turned battlefields into moonscapes. Entire villages in France and Belgium were erased from the map, but the war didn't stay on the battlefield. Naval blockades starved civilians. The Armenian population of the Ottoman Empire faced genocide, with over 1 million killed. Russian civilians endured famine and revolution. Spanish flu, spread by troop movements, killed an estimated 50 to 100 million people worldwide. In 1918 and 1919, families across every warring nation lost sons, fathers, and brothers. The generation of young men born in the 1890s was decimated. In France, 1 in 5 men between 18 and 30 did not come home. In villages across Britain, stone memorials list name after name, sometimes a dozen from a single street. The trauma didn't end when the fighting stopped. What we now call PTSD was then called shell shock, and tens of thousands of veterans lived the rest of their lives haunted by what they had seen. Think of the pre-war alliance system like an insurance policy that everyone bought to avoid paying out. Each nation thought, if I'm protected, no one will attack me. But insurance only works if claims are rare. When everyone filed at once, the whole system collapsed into bankruptcy. The war also shows how rigid plans destroy flexible thinking. Military mobilization schedules were like a factory assembly line, efficient, but unable to stop once started. Generals built these plans over years and they had no reverse gear. Diplomats who wanted to negotiate found themselves overtaken by trained timetables. It's a lesson that echoes today in automated systems, from stock markets to nuclear launch protocols. Historians call the war a failure of imagination. Leaders could not imagine that a modern, industrial war would be so destructive, so long, or so total. They thought cavalry charges and battlefield honor still mattered. They learned too late that barbed wire, machine guns, and chemical weapons had changed everything. The war's aftermath reshaped the world. For empires German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ottoman collapsed. New nations like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia were carved from the ruins. The Treaty of Versailles imposed such harsh terms on Germany that it helped fuel the rise of Adolf Hitler 2 decades later. The Middle East was divided by British and French colonial powers, creating borders and conflicts that persist to this day. So here's what we know for certain. A 19-year-old fired 2 shots. Austria-Hungary used it as an excuse to crush Serbia. Alliance commitments and rigid war plans turned a regional dispute into a global catastrophe. 17 million people died. What we still debate is whether it was inevitable or whether better leadership, clearer communication, or more courage could have stopped it. Whether any one nation was truly to blame, or whether they all were. Now, the question becomes, did anyone learn the lesson? After 1918, the victors tried to build a new world order. The League of Nations was created to prevent future wars through collective security, but it had no army and no way to enforce its rules. Germany was disarmed and forced to pay crushing reparations. The map of Europe was redrawn based on the principle of self-determination, though in practice. Borders were messy and left millions of people on the wrong side of new lines. Confidence level high that the war's economic and psychological wreckage made another major conflict more, not less, likely. Within 2 decades, the world was at war again. Medium that the lessons of World War I influenced how leaders approached World War II, and the Cold War creating institutions like the United Nations and NATO to avoid the same alliance traps. Whether those lessons hold in the 21st century is an open question. Confidence level low that humanity has fully escaped the dynamics that caused 1914. Complex alliances, nationalist fervor, and rapid escalation mechanisms like cyber warfare or nuclear arsenals still exist. The tools have changed, the human temptations have not. World War I was not caused by one assassin's bullet. It was caused by decades of fear, pride, bad planning, and the catastrophic belief that war could be controlled. The men who started it thought they'd be home by Christmas. They were wrong. If you want to understand what happened after the war ended, subscribe our channel and watch our next documentary, How the Treaty of Versailles Set the Stage for World War II. It picks up exactly where this story leaves off.